The swarm mentality takes over Cincinnati, while Who Dey Nation didn't come away with the results that they wanted because the Houston Texans are for real.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, everybody, to this Monday's episode, Victory Monday's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And every day is getting a little bit more sweeter as Cody and I continue to talk Texans. Thank you to all of our new listeners and subscribers out there. If this is your first time, make sure that you subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast, wherever you get your podcast, YouTube as well. To all of our returning listeners, thank you for lending your ear for another day. Going to be a fun one today. I'm your Texans football analyst, John from Sports Guy Hickman. Joining me as always is your insider, your sports illustrators on your Texans Potential Media member, Cody Davis. We're going to look at understanding the keys to victories and really put an eye on some of the more underrated players or plays from Sunday's victory against the Cincinnati Bengals. How Noah Brown, by the way, 172 yards, back-to-back weeks with 150 yards through the air. And Devin Singletary helped lift this offense. And by the way, we can't mention Devin Singletary without talking about the offensive line, so leave that to me. But we're going to open up today's episode, guys, looking at how the swarm mentality went into Cincinnati and really helped dictate the flow of that game, especially Cody for 3.5 quarters for the most part. Heading up into the week, a lot of Cincinnati Bengal fans just was kind of really rude to Texans fans on social media. Didn't believe that Houston had a shot. Well, not only did they have a shot, Joe Burrow and C.J. Stroud, they were going shot for shot. And in the end, it was C.J. Stroud and the Texans standing tall.
Look, and I'm going to put it plain and simple. That mentality is part of the reason why the Texans are 5-3 heading into week 11 with a chance, John. We might as well say it. They are definitely on the path to a playoff berth.
They have the 7th wild card spot right now.
Right now, that is crazy to think with this franchise, especially this soon. But John, you know, we normally start off talking about the offense and then we transition into the defense. But I wanted to start with the defense because that swarm mentality, I understand that they gave up 20 points in the second half. I understand that Cincinnati did have a chance to steal this game from the Houston Texans. But John, to your point, for those 3.5 quarters that the Texans played on the defensive side of the ball, I would consider that one of the best defensive performances that we have seen over the last 3 years. And it starts with my guy, Sheldon Rankins. Now, ladies and gentlemen, John, I believe it was on Friday's installment of Locked On Texans. I told you guys that I spoke to Sheldon at his locker. And I asked him, because he missed the last 2 games with a knee injury, I asked him, hey, how you feeling, man? Are you good to go Sunday against Cincinnati? And he told me it's go time. And go time is what he lived up to because Sheldon Rankins went into Cincinnati and had a career day recording 3 sacks to go along with 5 tackles. And the one thing I loved about Sheldon Rankins' performance, outside of CJ to a certain extent, I love how this version of the Houston Texans, they do not rely on the services of one guy to lift them up every single week. All we have to do is go back to the last regime when you had D-Hop in your prime, when you had J.J. Watt in his prime. Every single week, there was so much on that plate.
Not to cut you off, but if you go literally right back to a couple of seasons ago, if Brandon Cooks didn't have a good game, then you pretty much know the offense stunk it up.
My goodness.
So like if JJ wasn't out there sacrificing everything, and even when he did, the defense was stinking it up. But if JJ wasn't impactful, then you pretty much knew the Texans were getting 25 hung on their head, and that was just 2-3 seasons ago.
And to piggyback off what you said, John, over the last couple of weeks, we have talked about Jonathan Grenard, even though he did come away with another sack. We talked about Malik Collins. We talked about Jerry Hughes. We talked about multiple guys on that defensive front who either A, set the tone, i.e., shout out to Will Anderson Jr., or went out there and was able to get home and complete sacks, i.e. the guys that I just mentioned. However, Sheldon Rankins, a veteran who has played in several important games throughout his career, most noticeably with the New Orleans Saints, he had an opportunity with his veteran presence, with his veteran leadership, to go out there and set the tone for that defensive front, for that defense. And that is part of the reason why, after the Texans allowed Cincinnati to score in their opening drive, they had, 5 or 6 consecutive drives where they had 3 and outs? I think it was 5, correct, John?
So after that first drive, Houston did allow the Bengals to convert 2 or 3 on third downs, 1 or 1 on fourth downs. The Bengals only had 22 yards through the 8-minute mark in the third quarter, which included 4 straight punts, actually 4 straight punts. And then the Cincinnati Bengals just kneeled going into halftime. So basically 5 drives where Houston was able to get the Bengals off the field defensively. And guys, that's huge because we know how good Joe Burrow is. Didn't mean to cut you off, but we know how good Joe Burrow is. And for that defense to take away that team's superpower, that speaks to the difference. This isn't that Tampa Bay, that cover 2, that Tampa 2 defense from last couple of years. This is a different defense, man. This is a really different defense.
I'm glad that you cut me off because, John, that 8-minute stretch that you just finished talking about, here's how impressive that is.
No, it wasn't an 8-minute stretch.
Oh, no,
it wasn't the 8-minute mark.
8-minute mark of the third quarter. Okay, so when you take that portion of the game, you're looking at a team that stopped a Cincinnati Bengals team that won 4 consecutive games. Joe Burrow had entered his name back into the MVP conversation. This was a team that coming into this game has scored an average of 25.5 points to go along with 350 yards. This is also a team that hung 31 on San Fran's, one of the best defensive teams in the league. Look, I understand the end did get scary, but when you look at the defense that this team played through those first 3.5 quarters, it was phenomenal. By the way, this was a injury-riddled defense that went out there in Cincinnati without the services of Jimmy Ward, who went down with a hamstring injury, and Henry T, the team's leading tackler as of right now. He did not play due to a concussion. This was a phenomenal defensive game for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I think so. When you say it got scary in the end, that's not on the defense. That was simply on Bobby Sloyd choosing not to run the ball when – of all the times to run the ball, yesterday was the moment to run the ball, and C.J. Stroud threw that pick. So definitely disagree with that call. But overall, the offense had a good day. Back to the defense, the pressure from the front 4. I wanted to see how Houston was going to respond with Derek Stingley back. And at times, they did blitz Joe Burrow in that defense, in that offense. But the pressure from the front 4, I think, really dictate the flow of this game defensively. Because you had your edges between Jonathan Grenard, between Will Anderson, and what Will Anderson did on yesterday's matchup to lead to that victory won't necessarily show up in the stat sheet. And Jerry Hughes at times, even with Dylan Horton, when they were able to crash the pocket, that forced Joe Burrow to have to step up. And then you're looking at a Sheldon Rankins game. Sheldon Rankins and Malik Collins had a day that made it difficult for those interior offensive linemen for the Cincinnati Bengals to win any of those reps against them. And I don't think we've seen a D tackle play that good in a very long time. Actually, Malik Collins, to your point, Cody, Malik Collins had a big game last week. He had 2 sacks. Sheldon Rankins followed it up with 3 sacks. They did a very good job, again, just containing Joe Burrow for the most part of that game in that pocket, not allowing him to have those extended plays, got after him early, got after him hard. 9 QB hits. They got to the quarterback 4 times, and I think Christian Harris played great as a linebacker in coverage and that sideline to sideline. He didn't miss a lot of tackles. He was able to play his zone, and when he flowed, I think a lot of times that cut off what Joe Burrow wanted to do to get the ball out of his hands quickly because Christian Harris was right there. I mean, I can't understate how good I thought Christian Harris played Sunday, back-to-back games after missing time and snaps. Remember, like his role decreased for Houston. The last 2 games, you really see the potential that he can have as a linebacker in this league. Was good against the run. Also, Denzel Perryman, who struggled In coverage, he was good against the run as well for Houston. Between those two linebackers and Tavier Thomas at that nickel position, who was solid. I mean, really, I think he led the team in tackles, but he didn't miss a tackle. He was super solid in terms of playing the flats or playing against the run. Early in the game, they held the Cincinnati Bengals, to 2.6 yards per carry at one point in the game. So they completely took away, and that's not a team that necessarily produces well on the ground anyways, but they completely took away another element of that offense. And for Houston, they know how that feels. If we can limit you in one area, we'll force you to beat us in another one. And they did force Joe Burrow late in the game to have to do a lot of acrobatic things. We saw some of the cross-body throws, but the discipline of this team, the discipline of this defense down the stretch, really for all 4 quarters. But eventually you knew with Joe Burrow trying those cross-body throws, eventually you knew one of them was going to get picked, and one of them did because Shaq Griffin was right there to take it. So overall, man, like the defense for Houston, they play fast, they play disciplined, they play smart, they did not miss tackles, and when the opportunities arrived, they took advantage of them. Can't say enough about Sheldon Rankins and the job that he did Sunday. Hey guys, listen. A couple of months ago, I needed to find Beyonce tickets. They were expensive, and a lot of places where it's hard to find. But you know what? I tried the Game Time app, found exactly what I needed. You should not have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event, and the Beyonce concert was a big event. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all of the sports, music, comedy, theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and my favorite feature, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You got last-minute ticket flash deals and zone deals. Super easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Got the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss. Much more with Game Time. They're making it super easy, and I love the app. You got the Game Time tickets has deals on Game Time has tickets on deals right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. Do you hear what I'm saying? I know y'all do. Y'all listening. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Locked On NFL. It's Christmas time. Maybe your wife, maybe your girl, maybe your brother, maybe your husband wants to go to a Rockets game. They want to go to a concert. They want to catch a play. Game Time has the tickets you need.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Victory Monday installment of Locked On Texans. John, listeners and viewers, I do want to say this before moving on to our next topic. I truly do believe whether the Houston Texans make the playoffs or not, Coach DeMeco Ryans should definitely be Coach of the Year because nobody expected the Texans to be this good, this fast. So kudos to Coach DeMeco Ryans. A lot of people didn't believe it. Just like a lot of people did not believe that Noah Brown will be this good, this fast for the Houston Texans. Because remember, during training camp and throughout the preseason, I kept writing, kept talking about how Noah Brown is going to play an important role for this wide receiving corps. A lot of people, including you, John, did believe it. However, over the last 2 games, Noah Brown has played phenomenal. In Sunday's win against Cincinnati, this young man had a career day for 170 plus yards with 7 catches. By the way, over the last 3 games, 325 yards on 13 catches. Shout out to Noah Brown. He's definitely on the verge of a career year, which means this is the second wide receiver that CJ Stroud has helped reach a career season to go along with Nico Collins, who did not play in Sunday's victory due to a calf injury. So, of course, speedy recovery to him. But shout out to Noah Brown, man. Once again, very huge for this Houston Texans offense.
Yeah, you know what? You talk about another career year. The career high for Dalton Schultz came in 2021, 808 yards, 8 TDs. Right now, he's sitting at 421 with 4 TDs. And so I would not be shocked with Houston having 8 games left?
Mm-hmm.
8 games left at this point. If we see career highs again from Nico Collins, who already has reached his career high, if we see the career high from Noah Brown, who in back-to-back weeks has put up over 320 yards through the air as a receiver, and Dalton Schultz as well, we're also technically getting career highs from John Mechie, who I don't think has dropped all but one pass this year. I mean, he's caught all but one pass this year. And every time he catches a pass, it seems like it's either for a first down or it's a crucial catch. When I got an opportunity to look at that offense yesterday, you want to bring up receipts. And, yeah, I did not necessarily believe in Noah Brown at the beginning of the year. I thought Houston just should have went younger at that position. And was I wrong about that, especially looking at how much of a spark he's been for Ohio State connection, by the way. But between him and CJ the last couple of games, they put up a regular game number with 320 plus yards. At the beginning of the year, I made a statement and I said, I don't think Dameon Pierce is going to rush for 1,000 yards like a lot of people thought he would because of the addition of Devin Singletary. Now, I did not see Dameon Pierce having the struggle that he's had this year, but I definitely saw Devin Singletary having moments like this. It was a very good back for the for the Buffalo Bills. And I think when you look at how Devin Singletary and combined with that offensive line, how great they played Sunday, that was the impact for the game for me. They were able to create and get the initial contact from the line of scrimmage right after snap. The offensive line did a good job of getting to the second level, getting hats on the body. But one thing that the difference between Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce, once that offensive lineman in front of you or the offensive line in total was able to get that contact, get to the next level, Devin Singletary Sunday did a very good job of using one cut and getting up the field for additional yards compared to Dameon Pierce, where at times you'll see him initiate the contact himself, which will lead to no gains, negative yards, or maybe 1 or 2 yards per pop, averaging about 2.6 yards per game. Per carry. Yesterday, Devin Singletary alone averaged, I think, 5.5 yards per carry. It was very good for Houston. And again, the offensive line did a good job of getting to the second level, which, Cody, how many times, the listeners and viewers, how many times have you heard me come on this show and say, listen, they got to do a good job of getting to the next level. They got to do a good job of putting their hands on a linebacker or whoever is in their box, because that's going to allow their that's going to allow their running backs to be able to get a few additional yards. And so that was good to see from that standpoint. And going into that game, Cincinnati allowed 5 yards per carry. Houston did a very good job, which is something that they haven't been good at, feasting on the inabilities of the opposing team's defense. So that's in back-to-back weeks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers allowed a lot of explosive plays where you saw Houston go out there and get those explosive plays. This week, the Cincinnati Bengals were not good in terms of stopping the run, where you saw Houston go out there and do a good job of establishing the run. And then that allowed the offense, I think, for Bobby Slowick to open up in its entirety. Houston had 21 plays of 10 or more yards. That's on the ground, that's through the air, 21 plays of 20 yards or 10 or more yards through the air. And CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans right now, guys, they are number 1 in the NFL. They lead the NFL with the most 20-yard plays of the season, and a few of those came from yesterday. When you're able to run the ball effectively and efficiently, when you're able to create those plays downfield for Bobby Slowick, you really just got to keep my feet up and just relax and say, I got the guys out there doing what we need for them to do, and they're executing. Yesterday was probably the best executed offensive game throughout the season, and that's including the 2 fumbles, one of which I thought should have came back, the CJ Stroud passing fumble. That's including a touchdown that the NFL took away. Nobody ever saw Robert Woods step out of bounds, by the way.
They didn't. No, they didn't.
And then that same, I think it's the same end zone, they had a camera there in favor of the Cincinnati Bengals on a pass interference call. So I don't know what New York saw, because I definitely don't know what the referee saw. But that was a touchdown that was taken away. They ended up getting 3 there. And then the play call at the end of the game. It was 3rd and 3. It was 2 play calls at the end of the game. 3rd and 3, CJ throws a pick instead of running the ball. And I think it was 3rd and 2. And instead of maybe throwing the ball immediately or running the ball again, because you've been very successful to that point, CJ takes a deep shot to Tank Dell. And I would have, rather that not happen. Between the last, I think, 5 minutes of the game, the Texans defense did allow 10 points, but I think those points came because of the offense's issues during that 5-minute stretch. But overall, 188 yards on the day. Devin Singletary, the first 100-yard rusher since week 9 of last year, that Eagles game. Back-to-back games with 150 for Noah Brown. This was a statement game for both sides of the ball, and that offense was really good. But the key to yesterday's matchup was that offensive line and them being able to help establish the run. No doubt about it. Score early, score often, score a lot this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you're thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. NFL, NBA, college football, college basketball, women's college basketball. Everything is kind of popping right now, and FanDuel has exactly what you're looking for. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make sure that you are having the fun that you want during this NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Welcome back, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers. Before we close out today's show, understanding the keys to victory, understanding and showing love to maybe some of the more underrated players or plays from Sunday's matchup against the Bengals. Cody, I love the way you opened up that second segment, talking about how the mentality of this team has changed under DeMeco Ryans, which is apparent. And one of the guys that I want to show love to, like I've already showed love to Christian Harris. One of the guys that I really do want to show love to, and maybe because I'm a dad now, but Jonathan Grenard, man, John Grenard. The question surrounding Jonathan Grenard was his health, right? When we talk about career highs offensively, John Grenard right now has an opportunity to reach double-digit sacks. But when you look at Grenard, man, he's just playing some good football. And it's not the football that I think when you look at star edge rushers Houston has had in terms of J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney had one of those 2 big years, Mario Williams. They've had some good rushers here, edge rushers. But Grenard is playing some very disciplined defense coming from that edge spot. And he's playing a lot of bully ball as an edge defender. Like he's overpowering some of these tackles. He's beating guys that already have bad technique. He's putting moves on them. Like what we saw from John Grenard in that 8-sack year, I think that was his sophomore year. What we saw from him that year, he's built off of that. He's gotten better. He's gotten quicker. He's gotten stronger. And I think what's been underrated about his game is he's added more moves to his repertoire. So he's been able to get after the quarterback. And if he's not getting after the quarterback, he's helping stopping the run game. So I definitely want to show John Grenard some love because he was huge yesterday. We're going to give Sheldon. I think Sheldon Rankins was the defensive player of the game. Like, no doubt about it. But how good would that D-tackle game between Sheldon and between Malik Collins if it wasn't for the edge defenders doing a very good job of just crashing in and taking some of those lanes away from Joe Burrow. And Tavier Thomas stood out to me yesterday as well, making sure that if anything was thrown in the flats, they didn't do a good job offensively or breaking away because when he was there, he secured the tackle. So Tavier Thomas was big for the Houston Texans defensively. And then on the offensive side of the ball, again, as a unit, the offensive line just plays so good. They play so good. And George Fant, there's a lot of talk about comeback player of the year. There's a lot of it going to DeMar Hamlin. And I don't think he's registered a stack this year. I don't know how many snaps he's played, but I know it's been beyond limited. But I think coming into this year, George Fant should be considered in some capacity for some recognition, whether it's national or local, because he has made the Texans' decision to leave Titus Howard at left guard, which a lot of us are against, difficult because of the good job he's been playing at right tackle. And don't want to underestimate that he's been playing some damn good football. And so has Shaq Mason. On that CJ Stroud rushing touchdown, go back and look at how good of a job Shaq Mason did in just creating CJ a lane. So yesterday, a lot of the small things ended up to being bigger things, like the offensive line, 150 yards from Devin Singletary, 188 on the day, right? Sheldon Rankins, you see the 3 sacks, but you also see John Grenard, who got a sack, helped create a lot of that pressure from the edge. Everybody doing their job and executing well helped Houston pull off that 30-27 victory against a red-hot Cincinnati Bengals team.
For me, I just want to give kudos to DeAndre Houston Carson.
Oh, yeah.
He did not look good filling in the void after Jimmy Ward went down with that hamstring injury against Tampa Bay. And remember, John, that was something almost every single day here on this show last week. I talked about how difficult it was going to be for the Texans to replace what Jimmy Ward brought to this Houston Texans defense. And DeAndre did really good. He finished the game with 7 tackles. He had an interception that should have been the game-winning interception if it wasn't for that mishap that Bobby Slowik did with his play calling. But special kudos to DeAndre Houston Carson. By the way, of course, we went through the whole show, and yes, we're going to focus more on it on tomorrow's show, but another phenomenal game for CJ Stroud. 356 yards for 23-39, 1 passing touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown. By the way, with 356 yards,
MVP.
That shit, woo, man. But look, with 356 yards, CJ Stroud has tied for the most games for a rookie quarterback with 350 yards or more, tying Andrew Luck and, of course, Cam Newton with 3. And with about 8 games left, I'm pretty sure that's going to be another, not franchise record, but league record for a rookie quarterback that CJ Stroud is going to have to his name when the 2023 season come to an end. Like I said, we'll mention more, talk more in depth about CJ on tomorrow's show, but another phenomenal game for that rookie quarterback.
Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. The energy will be better tomorrow. The baby has kept me up throughout the night, but make sure that you subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Give me a follow at John_Hickman12 on X/Twitter. And we'll be back to talk more takeaways from Sunday's matchup, of course, and just how damn good CJ Stroud is.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, that's Cody, COTYDAVIS_24. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.